Welcome to my podcast, Actual Leigh. This is the continuation of last week's conversation. Let's dive right back in.
Wipeout, the first Wipeout, the soundtrack, and that was really exciting. Like the Prodigy was on there before the Prodigy got really big. I was like deep into that kind of music, so like I knew most of the bands on that soundtrack, and they were like, this is like way before, I think it was another 2 or 3 years before they got popular. And there was another game called Reloaded that Pop Will Eat Itself did the soundtrack for, which was really exciting too. It was like just the bleed of one area of interest for me into another area of interest. And I think it's taken longer for the actors and stuff to,
get on board.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Destiny and stuff. So the voice actors or some of them are really well known. Like, I don't remember their names. Lance Hendrickson, is that like he just died last year? He was one of the voices. And then the actress from Firefly.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's just cool. It's cool to see it continue, I guess.
Yeah.
I think video games were appreciated for the art and storytelling that they were by certain people, but now it's so just normalized that people appreciate it. So it just seems more legitimate to people to take those jobs and stuff. Which I think ultimately is good because it just opens more doors,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hopefully it doesn't make the games more expensive, but they're going to do that anyways.
Yeah. Well, I gotta like find some way to like, I don't know, make it expensive, like down the DLCs, do something, and it's like, for only a limited time you can get it or something.
Yeah. I've heard like rumors that they're talking about charging like $80 for games instead of $60. And I'm like, dude, come on, $60 is reasonable. You guys are already making a profit. Do you need to make more of a profit? It'd be one thing if they were taking a loss and not making money. But if they're making money on shit, why charge more? Like, it just, why punish us? Like, it's not cool. Like, most games, I don't even get to play them until they're on sale for like $8 or something. It's just.
Yeah, unless if they're like making it 80 and then throwing in like a DLC bundle pack or something, then that makes it actually make sense.
And that's how it used to, like, I remember getting, was it Borderlands 2, and I pre-bought all the planned DLCs and stuff. And so it was, I think it was like $60 at the time. Which seemed really expensive. And now like a base game is $60. And if, for $60, if you get a game that you put, like Death Stranding, I don't know how many hours I put into that game. I only paid $10 for it. But, if I had paid the full price, I put enough hours and it's worth what I paid. But some games, the stories are very short, and what you're actually paying for is access to the grinding after the game is over. And I don't like that part. I don't do that part. So the story has to be worth it to me. I don't know.
That makes sense.
Do you want to do the questions?
Ooh.
So
3,001?
Yep. So what I do is I'm going to ask you for 3 numbers between 1 and 3001, and then I ask you the questions that are associated with them. And yeah. And that's and then that just goes to the patrons.
Ooh.
It's just for them.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
But I think, I think curiosity needs to be implemented more with things.
Yeah, instead of like kill a fire or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, that default human thing of like, oh, that's different. So therefore it's bad and I need to control it or destroy it or whatever. That's like
Yeah,
really, it's not really there's a lot of like, like basically being like that's bad, don't be racist, don't be this, don't be that. But there's not a lot of conversation around why our brains do that,
yeah,
there's a lot of conversation in certain circles, but in the mainstream there's not a lot of conversation around the fact that humans are like that. We're
mhm,
not, not only are we like scared of anything that's different until we are able to humanize it. Um, but we also like, um, oh, I brain farted again. Come on, brain. Why you keep doing that? Why you
dang it,
doing that?
man,
Probably because I took a
stop being
nap.
rude.
Yeah, so rude. Um, yeah, so we have the inherent fear of things that are different, but then our brains are also pattern seeking.
Yeah,
So we do have biases based on like our life experiences, and those are not invalid. It's how we use them and how we act on them that is a problem. And I feel like
yeah,
the conversation often lacks the acknowledgement of human nature when telling people how they should or shouldn't behave, towards
yeah.
other people. Um, like it just they're there. Like I have specific neighbors from specific parts of the world that I don't want to have neighbors from those places. And it's because there are consistent issues that are specific to their culture and what's normal for their living environments. And like that it negatively impacts me being around that. And so like I have that, but I always like it doesn't make me hate people from that place, right? That's the line. I go, oh, I don't want to deal with that in my living environment, but it doesn't mean like they're bad people because they do that stuff, or they're from that culture or whatever. There's the line, um, and it's like I recognize that, so I don't have that kind of like bias. But if I was like walking around and be like, well, I don't like neighbors from this particular area, people could call that racist, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's based on, and matter of fact, people I know that are like second or third generation from those cultures also do not like having them as neighbors because of the same issues. It's like we get, very used to the culture that we live in, and then we don't want other stuff. So
I
it's,
think there needs to be like an open conversation of everything, and like, because there are people who, I don't know why, but they think that racism doesn't exist anymore.
yeah,
And then there are people who are like, who find every little like supposedly um supposedly negative thought that's kind of directed towards specific people as racist,
yeah. Or
when it's
honestly, you
not
could say,
necessarily like
yeah,
that.
you might not even say anything negative, just acknowledging
Yeah.
or making a joke or anything. They might be, oh, that's racist. And then you're like,
Uh-huh.
how? you know,
Like,
it's,
for example, certain cultures eat curry, and there's so many types of curry. If you eat a certain amount of it, it starts coming out of your pores. That is a fact.
yeah,
And then, but if you have a sensitive olfactory system, if you're just sensitive nose, you will smell that on them, and then you will say, "Okay, this person has a particular smell of it." But then, if you have that conversation with someone, also like, "Oh, you're being racist." It's like, it's
yeah.
not being racist. It's, I have noticed this. It
It's
is
a
a pattern.
pattern. Yeah. It's well, the apartment that we live in when we first moved in, it stank. And it's because the people lived here before cooked curry in it every day for years. And the building didn't know how to treat the walls and stuff to help with the smell. They just painted over it. So then the
Oh
smell is
no.
still in there. It was so bad. But it's
no.
totally like, she was like, as soon as she was like, oh, an Indian family lived there, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. I used to have a neighbor who was like behind me, like backyard off to the side, and they would cook, and its smell still came in my house with the windows closed and stuff. It's like, so I totally get that. I mean, curry's delicious, but
Yeah.
it definitely, like, in one of the things I read was that in India and stuff where curry, is more common, that like the fancier houses, they have a detached kitchen.
That makes
So
sense.
yeah, and that's just kind of built into their culture and stuff. So I thought that was interesting, because like, it makes sense, like, that they would be like, if they're used to having a system to deal with it, that they wouldn't deal with it. But yeah, or wouldn't have to deal with it. And then here it's like, we
Yeah.
don't have a system for that. And fans, most houses don't have good enough ventilation fans or anything like that.
Yeah, especially if you I've noticed that like in a lot of like American built houses, for some strange reason, the ventilation thing that they use, I don't know what it is. Like, I guess the sucking power isn't good or
Yeah.
what. It's weird.
Yeah.
But then when I have come across Asian ones, they're actually really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I installed new ones when I owned a house, both in the bathroom and the kitchen, and it was made such a big difference, because they just didn't work that well. The one here, I don't even think it does anything. I don't, but they also, like, when they painted the exterior, they sort of painted over the mesh for the vent that goes outside, which isn't going to help with airflow.
Ugh,
So yeah,
why did they do that?
stupid. I don't know. People don't think. It's so weird. Yeah, it's I don't know. And then a lot of people, they don't even use the vent fans. They don't realize why they're important. And I think that's crazy too, because there's people in third world countries who don't have access to ventilation, that have like health issues, like lung issues, because of cooking indoors without ventilation. It's like, that stuff, it matters. It's there for a reason.
Yeah, it blows my mind how some people that they have this mentality where like, well, if it doesn't affect me or my own immediately and I don't feel the effects, then whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so?
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, it's crazy. Like, I've been having issues with my neighbor. They use Fabuloso, and
Oh no.
it is we can't open our windows or anything, because it just comes right in, but it also is just coming in through the wall, and it's awful because I react to it. And it's like, what am I going to do? I can't really do anything about it, because it's not one of those things that, it's not like the loud music, the building told them to stop doing that, but like, you can't really, that's just not an area that people think to police. Yeah. Like, stop using Fabuloso, like, and there's a lot of, like, if you search for Fabuloso and look it up, and it'll say that it's like safe and stuff. But if you actually start looking at like air quality studies and stuff, like all those cleaning supplies that use like the perfumes actually create like a lot of air pollution that are like a problem. So it's like, we really shouldn't be using them, but but it's like, culturally, like, people think like, if your house smells like perfume, it proves that you clean your house. And I think that's unfortunate. It's like using perfume on your body to tell people that you're clean. It's like, just be clean,
Yeah.
Like, to me, a clean house is a neutral smelling house. Oh, I don't know. I have a different association, I guess.
Yeah, I don't, I mean, I get why people like scents and whatnot, but it's like, it's not very good to be in an environment with so much scent anyway.
Well, and it's like, there's scents that are made from chemical, like synthetic chemicals and stuff that can be irritating, like I'll use essential oils sometimes that are, like the all natural ones. And obviously, like, if you have allergies to any of them, you're going to have a reaction, but that they're like, otherwise they're they're safe. They don't cause irritations unless you have sensitivities or whatever. And they also they're not like a stink bomb. They just create a very light scent, right? So sometimes, like when my housemate has acid reflux, like I can smell it, and the smell is I do not like that smell. So I will go like spritz this lavender around to kind of help control the smell until it like airs out after he goes to work or whatever. So I'm always like, take a Pepcid. I can smell your reflux. Yeah. I'm like, when I had housemates, it was like that too. I would tell people, I'd be like, yeah, you got a tooth infection, or you got issues with reflux, or you have untreated diabetes, or like, because there's all these smells, and I've learned over the years what they are, and they're very specific and consistent. And yeah. And then I learned like last year that there's like a whole area of medicine where they used to use smells to diagnose. And then as we started getting tests, we moved away from it, but they're actually starting to move back towards including it again.
Oh, cool.
Because it's effective. So I was like, hey, you guys can use me for that. My nose is crazy.
That's probably why like animals can tell certain things. Like, I mean, how else do they pick up on it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy that dogs can like smell when someone's about to have a seizure and stuff. Like, that trips me out.
So cool.
Yeah. Like some stuff like smelling cancer or whatever, that makes sense to me. But like the seizures, it's like what is happening in the body that they can smell like beforehand or whatever.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah. It's cool. Like, yeah, I could totally just be like, nope, you gotta go to the doctor for that. You gotta go to the doctor for that. I mean, I have multiple friends that they ended up like going to the doctor because I like nagged them until they went, And I had one friend that he just refused to believe that he had anything wrong with his teeth because he didn't have any pain. But the smell was like, I wouldn't even be in the elevator with him. I was like, no, dude, you got like a bad tooth, because there's gingivitis smell, which is a different smell. And I have a friend who has real bad gingivitis and he doesn't manage it. He's like, there's nothing I can do. And I'm like, you might, once you have it, but you can manage it, like, and you make it not smell like that. But it's hard to even be in a car with him. Like so the friend that had the infected tooth, he, I was like, dude, I'm not gonna, we had to drive somewhere, and I'm like, I'll just take my motorcycle. I can't be in the car with the smell. I'm sorry. It's really strong. And I'm like, you really need to go to the dentist. So he finally went to the dentist, and sure enough, he needed a root canal. So
like the thing is, people forget that just because there's an infection doesn't mean you're gonna feel pain.
Right. It's got to get bad enough.
Sometimes you do, not all the time.
Yeah, because you can have the infection, but it's not until it spreads that it starts to cause the pain. So if it's still inside the tooth, you may not notice it. I've needed multiple root canals, but I've never had any like pain to tell me that I needed the root canals or anything. They were like not at the point that there was like a smell or anything either. It was like one of my teeth just like broke. And so I needed a root canal because that tooth broke. But the other ones, it was that I had fillings done at Western Dental and they didn't seal them right. And so it allowed the inside of the tooth to rot. And so I went to get all my fillings because they were all metal. I went to get them replaced because they were really sensitive. And I finally had dental insurance. And as she's like taking the fillings out, she's like, this tooth is bad. This tooth is bad. This tooth is bad. It was awful. And it was just because like, I went to poor people dentists growing up and they did shitty work. And it wasn't even like that they were old. It was that they just didn't do good work.
That sucks.
Yeah. So rude. Yeah. I have this tooth over here that I had a crown put in at that point. And then it started hurting me after. And then I started having like a bunch of issues with the gum there. And so I kept going to the dentist, and then COVID happened, and I just lived with the pain during COVID. And I just went back to the dentist a couple weeks ago, and they said that the crown isn't shaped right. And this is a replacement crown for the first crown. And they said it's still not shaped right. And that what's happening is because it dips in underneath the gum, stuff gets stuck in there, and then it causes my gum to hurt. And because I take such good care of my teeth, my gums are not eroding, or whatever that word is, from it. Yet I was really worried about that because the pain is often really bad. But my gums are still healthy, thankfully. It's just hurts. And so they're like, yeah, well, we'll just have to replace the crown and do a better job this time. And there's no discount being offered for the work being done again, even though they did it wrong last time.
Get messed up.
Yeah, and it's $1,800 just for the crown stuff and the evaluation. And there's no guarantee that they can save the tooth, because I didn't have very much tooth left to begin with. So if there's not enough tooth, they can't put a crown in, and they would have to pull it and do an implant. And I'm like, I can't. I'm just gonna live with the pain, and I have tools to manage it, but it's like I don't have the money for that. It's crazy. I'm like, dude, I've been in pain for like a decade. And it's annoying when I'm watching my streams. I'm constantly like, you can tell like something's bothering me because I'm constantly fidgeting with my mouth. And it's because of that, because my tongue is like obsessed with that area. And I met somebody who they said they had some like dental issues. And so their tongue was like constantly rubbing against their teeth, and it caused scar tissue, which can cause cancer. So they'd have cancer, or had to have surgery to get the scar tissue removed from their tongue, and they said it was incredibly painful. And I was just like,
oh no.
So I worked really hard to keep my tongue like on the roof of my mouth. But like, if I'm focused on something else, sometimes my tongue is just like, like, I was like, why do you have your own personality? Why are you curious about things? You're a tongue. Stop. Like, As I told the dentist, I was like, dude, my tongue has a mind of his own. He's like, oh yeah, they just go for whatever is different in your mouth. Like,
oh yeah.
We both stopped to like
stuff stuck in between my teeth. It bugs me so much.
Yeah, this area especially, I'm really sensitive to it. So I always have floss. I keep floss in my bag so I can. And then I use like I use a water pick. I floss, water pick, and then I have a brush that I do right in the area that gets sore. And that helps like 75%,
Ugh.
So and I'm afraid to get it fixed. If I did spend the money, what if it doesn't fix it? Like, what if that,
Yeah.
So,
That makes sense.
yeah.
They didn't even offer it, like, to make it affordable, right? Because they're the one who messed it up. I don't get why.
Yeah, and they only guarantee their work for like a year after. But the thing was, I kept going in even after, and they never told me there was a problem. So it wasn't until I had somebody else look at it that they were like, oh, this wasn't done well.
That's even worse.
Yeah. So I don't know. After the RV sells, I'll look into it again, because, then I can put a little bit of money towards it, and it won't be as scary to spend the money. But, just, I don't know. And at that point, I'll probably call around and see if I can get better prices locally, because that was at the dental school. They charged me, I paid $540 for an exam and dental cleaning and x-rays.
Oh my goodness.
And when I called like the local dentist to get prices, it was less than that. Like, the school should not be more than an actual dentist. And so like when I went, I didn't even think to ask them, because I used to not spend that much. I had like this card for UCSF that like because I was a low income, and I guess they don't do that anymore. So I just have to pay like the cash price. And I freaked out. She was like, it's $500. And I was just like, well, I guess I'll wait till I get to the car to cry, because I was not anticipating spending that much. I was already stressed out about spending. I was expecting to spend like $300. It wasn't like I was thinking it was going to be cheap. But yeah.
But yeah, 300 is still better than 500.
Exactly. So just, I don't know. I know it's frustrating that stuff's not covered by Medicare or anything like that. It's just strange.
It doesn't make sense to me, honestly.
Yeah. I asked to go to the eye doctor at Stanford, since I get financial assistance through Stanford, so that I don't have to pay, because if I have something wrong with my eyes, Medicare will pay for certain tests and exams, but anything related to your vision, they don't cover that part of it. So then you have to pay. Yeah. So if I go to Stanford and they help me with my vision and all that, then I won't have to pay. So I just asked for a referral for that. Because it cost me to get my glasses, to get the prescription for my glasses. It cost me like $130 through the East Bay. And I don't like going to like lens crafters and stuff like that. There's not it's like I want to make sure that my eyes are healthy, especially at this age, like, because they're changing really fast. And dry eye is an issue for women in the middle age and stuff like that. So
makes sense.
Yeah. I always think you have short hair because of the way your bangs look. And then like you'll turn your head and I'm like, oh long. Yeah.
Yeah, because I usually have it tied up because bad touch.
Yeah. Bad touch.
Yeah, like especially if I'm like recently showered and my hair's wet, I just
Well, that's when I had long hair. And it gets like, and when it gets cold and it sticks to you, it's so rude. It's like, I've had short hair most of my life. And then when I think when we first met, my hair was longer, and that was like the longest I had kept it long. And there were a lot of situations in which it felt real bad. And then I'll go back and watch my videos and I'm like, my hair looked nice. At the time, I didn't think, my hair never looks good to me until like a year later. So I'm like, well, it didn't look bad. But I remember like I would take a shower and then it was like, oh, why is it touching me? I'd have to keep it like wrapped up in the towel so it wasn't touching me for a really long time. It's just, ugh. So I'm okay with it being short. She didn't cut it the way I wanted. And that's why I haven't posted any pictures or anything, because I'm not happy with it. And it's stressing me out. And she like missed a spot. I have like this long spot right here. But I gave her a picture and she didn't it's way longer than the picture. Like because of my curls, you can see, right? I have to have it at a certain length or the curls start doing stuff.
Same here, because I have wavy hair.
Yeah.
So it's not cut right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it either needs to be really short or it has to be long enough that I can tie it back. There's no in between. Yeah. But I can't shave it because my hair has, from my thyroid stuff, I've been losing so much. My hair's so thin now that if I shaved it, it would be noticeable. The thinning would be noticeable. So yeah, it's been crazy the amount of hair coming out of my head. I'm just like, I don't even know. I mean, it just says how much hair I had to start with. But my doctor said it takes 2 years after your body's kind of normalized for your hair to kind of start coming back. And my thyroid is still doing stuff. So I just have to be patient.
Thyroid.
I know.
Can you calm down? Jeez.
It's like on the opposite. It's like it went from being hyper and now it's working its way towards hypo. And I'm just like, I don't want that. Although it might help combat the hot flashes because hypo makes you cold. So there's that. They'll be like at work.
It is easier to manage cold than hot.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. Hot flashes are, I started taking some hormones, so they're getting better, but they were like, they would just hit me. And then I would be like, I was like at the doctor's the other day. I was just sweaty. I was just drenched. I'm like, oh, I'm just sweaty. Sorry.
No.
You know? So like crazy. It's like, I feel like I haven't stopped sweating since, like last January because of thyroid stuff. And then like my hormones started doing stuff as the thyroid, like, and I was like, really, body, really, we're doing this? Like, so,
one thing after another, seriously.
Yeah, that's apparently like pretty common in the perimenopause phase of life for women, though, and it's not talked about a lot. And there's starting to be more papers looking into kind of what happens to women in the workforce at that age and stuff. There's a lot of women that end up like going on disability and stuff because the hormone changes cause so many issues with like pain and brain fog and all of that. And so that's one of the arguments that's there for helping manage the symptoms, like using HRT and stuff like that, is allowing women to remain independent and productive and have a better quality of life because they can manage their symptoms and not have, all this pain and shit. I mean, it's a lot of women, the onset of like autoimmune conditions starts when with perimenopause.
Shoot.
And nobody tells you, like, it's like, I know women who like they have all these issues and they have obvious perimenopause symptoms and they don't think they're in perimenopause. They're like, well, I'm still ovulating or whatever. And I'm like, well, that doesn't mean you're not in perimenopause. Like at the end of the perimenopause, you stop ovulating and that's when you go into the menopause, but you can still be very eggy for many years and still have all these other symptoms and stuff like that. So it's very, and there's like all these health issues that can pop up that just don't get taken seriously, aren't acknowledged, and then women aren't given the tools to, manage it. It's rude.
Yeah, I don't get why there's not like open conversations about these things when it's very important. It's like it's suppressed or not talked about or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like impacts half the planet, but we're not going to talk about it. It's just that's when women get emotional or something, and get like, hot.
Women are just emotional. That's just how it is.
Yeah. Like
wow, women, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. It's just it's frustrating because it's not an easy stage to go through. So like why can't we make it easier? There's so many things that I just don't understand. Like why, like women's bodies do all kinds of rude things, and culturally, like even like other cultures, everybody's obsessed with women's bodies. And then women's bodies do all these important things like make babies and stuff and provide good times for the men's and stuff. And so there's like this obsession around the women's body, but then nobody wants to actually give women like their respect or support for being in a woman's body and all of the like ramifications of that, the things that come with it naturally. It's like, to me, I'm like, they're all connected. So, if you're going to appreciate a woman's body for its beauty and its sexuality and what it can do for you, then, you gotta, it's like having a car that, needs to have its valve clearance checked more often than another car. You just do that work. Like, why can we do that for vehicles, but we can't do that for women? It's just,
yeah, I
don't know.
Definitely.
It's like, it's just reality. It just is what it is. So why can't we, but I always had that, like when I would date men or whatever, that I was like, if you can't deal with the reality of my body, then you can't have access to it. So like I temporarily dated a guy who got offended if I mentioned my period. Like he threatened to throw me out of his car if I kept talking about it. So of course I kept talking about it because I'm like that. And he was a nurse. So I was like, you were a nurse. Like, like this is, I was like, no, sorry. That's a deal breaker. I'm done.
I don't get why he was so offended by it. I don't, the ball with my brain.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like men that don't want to have sex at that time or whatever. I'm like, you can feel however you want, but let me just tell you that would, when I had a uterus, that would have been a deal breaker because sex during that time makes that time less painful. So therefore you are providing a service and the shower is not that far away. So, like it's not a big deal, but some men are just like, it's so disgusting. And like I said, they can feel that way, but they can feel that way with somebody else.
Right. And it's like, you do realize that the stuff comes out of your dick is not clean either. So why are you so disgusting?
I'm like, and when you fart, that's poop, right? Like, come on, like human bodies are gross. Like, we all have to like tolerate stuff. Like, just so weird. There's like these weird, like, thankfully I haven't run into too many guys. I know they're out there, but it's not. Most guys I've known over the years have been more realistic, but it just seems like I think I'm less likely to hang out with sexist guys. And I feel like there's got to be like a bit of sexism involved to have those feelings.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's just I just like the way you said the stuff that comes out of their dick. Like,
right? It's true.
It is. I used to get rashes when I was married, and like my ex's stuff. I don't know what it was, but like literally, if it got on my skin, I would get rashes from it. So it was like a whole thing, if we're goofing off and we're not close to a shower or whatever. I mean, ignoring the fact that it has like a smell that you kind of like lingers. So, I'm like, yeah, it's not really not any worse or not any better than like the period stuff. And the period stuff's like there's blood in there, but it's not that much. It's just, it's like I think women bleed over their period of the 5 days or whatever. It's just a couple tablespoons. It's not like a lot. It just looks
but
like
it's
a
still
lot.
Blood.
Yeah. It's just mixed in.
Because I remember when my younger brother he was in high school at the time. I don't know why, but his biology teacher, you know what the biology teacher said? That women's periods, the flow actually isn't blood. It's close to blood, but it's not actually not blood. I'm like, and he had that conversation with me, and so I was like, if that's true, then how come women are more prone to being anemic? And he was like, you know what, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some blood. It's not a lot, but it's
So it's like, why is this biology teacher teaching this? I don't know what even to call that.
I don't know. Why do the scientists keep rediscovering the clitoris? I don't understand. They just keep finding it, and it's been happening for hundreds of years. Like, oh, that's not a real thing. And then it's like, oh, look what we found,
It reminds me of Columbus discovering.
Dude, Columbus should not have a day. Like, it annoyed me so much when I went to the post office and they were closed for Columbus Day. And I'm like, fuck that guy. He doesn't get a fucking, like, just get to fucking close the post office.
Right? Not to mention
It like silenced you. It censored you when you said whatever you said. It's still quiet. I'm waiting for it to come back again.
Hello?
Yeah, there you
go. Okay. And plus, he found it wrong. He called it wrong. He called it India.
Right.
It's not India.
Right. Yeah. It's so like history stuff. So I know that some people are pushing to make it into Indigenous Day. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have an opinion on that. I know that some tribes and stuff don't like being called Indigenous. So
right? Why can't we call them what they want to be called? Like on a lot of like forums or whatever, it's still American Indian, and they have said we don't want to be called that.
Yeah, but some do. That's the problem. It's like there's some prefer to be called Indian, some prefer to be called First People. Some it's people. It's what annoys me on those forums is being called Caucasian. I am not from the caucus. I am not. I like. It's so inaccurate. Like, why are white people called Caucasian when that is a specific location and we don't come from there? Some white people come from there, but like not all white people come from there. And it's so inaccurate and it annoys me. Like, I'm fine just being white, even though I'm not. I mean, I am pretty like light colored, but I'm still like, beige-ish, like a light beige or something. I'm not technically white, but I'm more okay with that than being called Caucasian, because that's based on a location that is not related to me whatsoever. So it annoys me.
Why can't we just use the right terms, right?
Yeah. I don't know. So all of that stuff is just, it's like, yeah, details about people and stuff is interesting and matters in the context of getting to know people and stuff. But otherwise, it's like, it'd be nice to get to the point that we don't need to keep track of that stuff because like it doesn't matter anymore. Like the doors open for people no matter where, where they're from or what their skin tone is or whatever, it'd be so nice to be in that future, but we're not there yet.
Yeah. I mean, the only time where I can kind of understand it is like in the medical field, because certain ethnicities are more prone to certain, health risks or health diseases, which that makes sense. But in certain contexts, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, why do you need to know that, single mother of 3 children, what her ethnicity is if she's trying to get financial support to feed her children, right? Like, you don't need to know what type of ethnicity she is.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I think they keep track of that because for reasons, and I think sometimes they do it to ensure like fairness or whatever, but it's a habit that I think we need to move away from, in certain situations. Medically, absolutely makes sense. It's just like people that are trans or whatever, the doctors need to know.
Yeah.
Because there are different, there's all kinds of stuff like medications, the female body responds to different to medications differently than men sometimes. And then dosages and things like that could be different. And, even with like the hormones and stuff, it still doesn't necessarily negate some of that information. And so that part of it is important, but it's not about gender or identity. It's just about science. So it doesn't even need to be part of the conversation, except for, okay, your health is being impacted in this way. And it doesn't even have to be because you're biologically a woman. It doesn't matter. It's just, these are the details, Yeah. And we need to deal with that. And, that at that point, I don't know but some people don't understand, some of that. I mean, even like, I don't know, my ex is trans and she has some really complicated like stuff around her transness that has made like life hard for like everybody, around her. And it's it's frustrating because it's not necessary, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I know those arguments can get like confusing and complicated. But I just think that like identity is very separate from science and medical health, you know, and I think it's possible to keep those divided in a way where people can retain their dignity and their identity without it being an issue, you know. All that needs to I want to be in the future. I'm so ready to be like in the future when, you know, if humans live that long, that we can figure out how to get to the point that we don't give a shit about any of that. Like, you know, because none of that matters. It literally only matters when it comes down to like mating and compatibility for mating, right? Otherwise, the details of another person's identity in terms of like sexual preference or gender or what, it doesn't matter. It doesn't impact anything. You know, it's nobody's business. It's just not important. It's like I always, when people are like, oh, what are your pronouns? I'm like, I don't care. And they look confused, and I'm not being rude. I just don't care. Like, I don't think it's important. It's not important to me. I know for some people, because they were misidentified in one way and grow up that way, that it's very important for them to have acknowledgement. But like, I want to be in the future when we get to the point that people get to grow up the way that they want to and not have that trauma, so that they don't have to care either. And that it just doesn't really matter except as a detail. Like, you know, that's what I want. I got called sir and a guy a lot when I was younger because of my short hair. And I just it never bothered me. I just, you know, I don't know. That's why I don't care, because it just doesn't. If someone thinks I look like a dude and they call me a dude, it doesn't matter, because I'm still the person that they're interacting with, and they aren't in my life. You know, they don't have any relationship with me. So it just.
And at the end of the day, like, you know who you are, regardless of what some person tries to like project onto you, right? If you're not that, you don't need to get upset. And I know you're really good at that. That's something that I'm learning to be, because it's like, if I know who I am, and that person is trying to make me get a rise out of me or whatever, like it's up to me to emotionally regulate and not, you know, get offended or whatever. But you know, I haven't always gotten it right, but you know, I'm working on it.
Yeah, well, a lot of times when people would call me sir or dude or whatever, they weren't even being rude. They just thought I was a guy, like on the phone or whatever. Sometimes my voice sounds like a guy, and I never said anything. And sometimes like people would realize their mistake, like at the grocery store or whatever, because they'd see I was wearing a skirt and I have hips and all that. And then they would get embarrassed or whatever. And I was like, I'm not even worried about it. Like, yeah, I know who I am, but I think like never really strongly identified with gender in general. Like, it was never like as a kid, I rejected a lot of the social pressure of what is traditionally like the female roles and femininity and sexuality and stuff. There was like all this stuff that I was like 10 and I was like, I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. I don't want to do this shit with the high heels and the makeup and all. I just didn't, you know, and it's not that I wanted to be a guy, but I wanted the freedom that I perceived men to have. Like, I wanted all the benefits of being female and the communication and having like emotional freedom and stuff like that, or more emotional freedom. It's not like women are still pretty, but like men are really repressed and expected to be super stoic. So, you know, it's like, I didn't want that part. I wanted like the best of both. I just wanted to be a person who did whatever I wanted to do and not be told who to be. So I didn't want to fill a role based on my body parts. And it really upset me that was so pushed on us at a young age. And so I was very like, I mean, I literally at 10, I would go tell the adults, I don't want to do that stuff, you know? And so, you know, it was like, I was already like shaving my head, and I wore like men's clothes a lot when I was younger, but I would also like randomly wear a dress, or, you know, it was like, I just did whatever I felt like doing. And that to me seems the best way, is to do whatever you feel like doing. And that's it. Like, you know, if being hyper feminine is what makes you happy, be hyper feminine. You know, it just doesn't, I just don't think it matters.
Yeah, plus it's like, if you're not harming yourself or someone else, right? Like, is it really that big of a deal?
Right. Yeah. I don't get the like need to control other people. Like, I just, and it goes both ways, you know, like, yeah, you know, like we have these places that are trying to make laws to make it less safe to be trans or whatever. And that's very problematic. And that should not be a thing. That should not even, like, the court should be like, this is a social issue and we are not making laws around this. The only law that should exist around that is that you can't like hurt or control people for that shit. It's like, you know, but like on the flip side, there's, you know, and this doesn't go into the law area at all. So this is like a little different, but there's like negative social ramifications. Like, I know people that think it's bad to be like cisgendered or whatever, and they're very biased and very negative in a way that like literally like basically making their kids feel like bad people because their kids are identifying with the sex that they were born with, you know, that they're, and it's like,
right.
And stuff like that is like just as problematic. I'm like, that's not cool. Like, and that's not, you know, that's not like common, but it still happens. And, you know, you can see that bias with the way that people use like the cis term as a negative or whatever, where they're just assuming by default that if somebody is like cis, they're going to be biased against somebody or whatever. And it's like, it's all details, like you know, it's not, you know, we just need to get to the point that people see it the way I do. And I know that that's not how the world works, but I wish that it worked that way. Like, I want people to have that freedom and that safety from every direction, you know, just stop trying to control each other. Right.
Yeah.
It's just sad. It makes me sad. It's so frustrating. It's like that I can't watch the news because I get so upset about stuff like racism and like people getting hurt for things. And then also like the denial of the impact of racism towards white people bothers me. It's like all of this stuff. It's just, you know, everybody's like being hurt by shitty people. And yeah, there's like higher numbers and certain power dynamics, but it doesn't change the fact that these other issues that happen to smaller amounts of people are still a problem. You know, it's like all of that stuff. And I get so upset. It's that I just have to like shelter myself because it's just, I hate that people go through that, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I've gone through some of that, my own stuff. My son went through some with some of the schools he was at, and it is so frustrating. It's just, you know, people are so magical and creative and fun and so fucking awful at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
Yep. I don't know. It just makes me think about food. Like one of the things that like humans do well is we find creative ways to experience food.
Yes.
And I don't know if you think about this, but sometimes I wonder like about the people all the people in our history and other species before we got to peopling at this level that died trying to figure out what was safe to eat, and the foods that you have to prepare in order for it to be safe to eat, like how they figured that out. And because there was some trial and error there, like
oh yeah.
And then like if people died from eating stuff, and then they're like, okay, so I know the Bob over there died when eating that thing, but hear me out. What if we put it in the fire for a while and then try to eat it? And then it's like when you pull straws,
but you can eat it cooked for some reason.
Yeah. Like who committed to trying it,
I think acorns are one of them. Like if you cook it well enough, humans can eat it.
Yep.
It's weird, but
yeah. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's just I don't like mangoes give me rashes, and I learned that's how I learned that it's not the mango, it's the skin on the mango. If you don't peel them well enough. And I didn't do a good enough job peeling it, and so I got like these like really weird little rash. I just didn't know. I didn't grow up eating them.
That feels very uncomfortable. I hope it cleared up quick.
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 days, and it was like these clear little blisters all over my lips. It was so gross. It was just,
oh no.
You're like,
that I know that would bother me so much, because like anytime I have something going on with my lips, I'm just like, hyperfixated.
Yeah, it's so like, and then bumps are gross, and I don't know. I have like I had really bad poison oak when I was a kid, where I was like covered, like from head to toe, like it was in my junk, it was in my mouth, it was horrible. And then I have to take steroids.
You fall into it or something?
We were like playing in it, and then we didn't know we were like sliding down this hillside. And then when we came in, we were all dirty, and so they gave us a bath, and then it spread the oils everywhere. And so my friend got it, but he didn't. He like, it wasn't as severe as my case. I had a really bad reaction to it. And then after that, he didn't get it much anymore, because it like gave him like, whereas for me, if I get it, I go get steroids right away. I'm like, my reaction's really bad.
Allergic to it then.
Yeah. And I didn't build up. So I had it, they were like, they had to put socks on my hands and like tie me up at night so I wouldn't scratch myself. And I think I had it for like at least a week before they took me to the doctor.
Yikes.
And got me like a steroid shot, because that was my first time having it. So they were expecting it to get better, but my body was just like, nah, bro. And it was so gross. Like I was covered in these clear blisters full of like liquid and stuff. It was so gross. It was awful. And it like gave me like a reaction when I feel bumps on my skin ever since then, where my stomach gets all, so when I had that on my lips, I was like, so gross. Yeah, when I see poison oak, I'm like, when I had a dog and we would go hiking, I had these wipes. So when we got to the car, I'd put on gloves and then I would wipe him down, and it helped make sure he didn't have ticks, but also like get any of the potential poison oak oils off of him as well. Because most of the time since then, when I've gotten it, it's been because of an outdoor animal that I came in contact with.
Oh, man.
Because they get into it, they have the oils on them, and then, yeah.
That is beautiful.
It's creepy. I got poison ivy, which is the same plant. But it, like, when you go into another environment, it like makes it change. And my reaction wasn't. I just got like a little, I got a little strip of it, but it went away after a couple of days. It wasn't bad. So that's weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Makes me wonder how come you had such a huge reaction to one, but the other was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the differences are in the oils and stuff between those plants. I've never never looked into it. Kind of makes me want to. Like, I don't know if that info's out there, but it might be.
Makes me want to know.
Yeah.
Oops.
It's like I don't know why. Whenever somebody says it makes me want to know, it makes me think of like the Information Society song where he's like, I want to know what you're thinking. So I always hear the I want to know part in my head.
That's so funny.
Well, let's wrap up the recording part of this.
Okay.
And thanks everybody for hanging out and listening. I'm going to break this up in a couple of things, which you guys will know by the time you hear this because it will have already been done. And yeah, thanks RJ for hanging out and agreeing to come on. And
of course,
I always have fun talking with you.
Same here.
Thank you for hanging out and listening. A huge thank you to my patrons. I could not do this without you. Want to support my creative chaos and get access to exclusive content? Check out my Patreon. Have questions and/or interested in joining me for a conversation? Email me.